Hello, how are you doing today? First and foremost, thanks so much for joining me. It is a bit of a rainy day here in London, Ontario, but it's nice and toasty warm in here for now. I bumped up the heat a little bit while I'm just sitting here doing some work. So, welcome. If you are joining me live currently, definitely say a little hello. My gosh, words. Say a little hello. Let me know you're here, or if you are catching this on the replay, hashtag replay, so I know that you were able to tune in. So I have been thinking a lot about lower back pain lately, and one of the reasons is because I'm going through a little bit of lower back pain right now. And I found that the thing that was most interesting when it came to lower back pain is when I first started really diving deep into pelvic health, I could not believe how many of the aches and pains I was feeling in my body were completely pelvic health related. And a lot of that has to do with the way we carry ourselves every single day, the way I sat down into this chair, the way I drive my car, the way I'm walking down the street, the way I'm carrying things. So I've had lower back pain off and on for a long time, long before babies were even a blip on the radar. And because I still have young kids who require my attention and need me to carry them, sometimes just because they need a little extra snuggle, my back pain has been acting up, and my hip pain actually specifically. So when it comes to pelvic health and the correlation between lower back pain, hip pain, when we talk about pelvic health, we are really talking about four main muscles. We call them the core four. So they are the pelvic floor, the transversus abdominis, the diaphragm, and the multifidi. And altogether, these four muscles predict every single movement in the body. When I lift my arm like this, there is a contraction that happens within these core four muscles right before I do this, in anticipation of me doing this movement, which is crazy for these deep down internal muscles. So when they aren't functioning properly, there's a lot that can be affected in our body. Now, just because we are focusing on these four muscles in our body does not mean that other muscles aren't taking the brunt of certain situations. So for instance, the lower back, the hips, the glutes, perhaps deep down inside of those glutes. These are all things that kind of have to turn on and switch on when the core four aren't working properly in order to compensate for things. I know this is a lot to intake right now, and I don't want to get into the huge scientific stuff. Oh boy, I really need this coffee. So I talk a lot about alignment, and yes, I think this is a huge factor in pelvic health. In fact, many people who specialize in pelvic health will talk to you about alignment. They will talk to you about how to breathe efficiently. Some of them will talk about mobilizing muscles. Some of them won't. Another huge key component, strengthening muscles and creating awareness. And especially recently, creating awareness has been the biggest thing, top of the list when it comes to helping my clients achieve better function within their body when it comes specifically to their pelvic health. So there are studies that have been done that say that awareness is at the top of the list of improving your pelvic floor concerns, things like incontinence, things like that lower back pain. You are not expected to walk through life in proper alignment 24 hours a day. This is not realistic. We have all of these amazing innovations in front of us. Things like the ability to drive a car, comfortable chairs, comfortable couches. I mean, I'm someone who loves to lay on my side and watch Netflix when I am done at the end of the day because that is my favorite position to be in. But it is not exactly correct for my pelvic floor. No big deal. However, when it comes to me training, when I'm lifting weights, it is important for me to check in with that alignment. It's important for me to really dial into my breath. And when I don't, or I'm really stressed out in life, things start to go, a little backwards for me. And that's fine. I take a step back, I reduce the weights, or I let go of the weights completely for a while. I get myself back to where I don't have to think about it anymore when things are a little bit less stressful, and then bam, things are good again. But I do have this tendency to slip into the incontinence side, slip into the lower back stuff. I talk a lot with local workplaces about how to improve lower back pain specifically. I go in and talk about ways that they can sit at their desk. So I've talked about this in videos before, like you're sitting and you can kind of lift and move your butt cheeks out of the way so you feel like your sits bones are pressing into the chair. And when we do this, try it right now, you will feel that your natural lower back curve starts to come back in. And you feel like you're sitting a little bit taller. And you might even notice that that lower back pain isn't so nagging anymore. So this is one very simple thing that you can start doing today to start making things feel better. If you think about it, when you sit down, you end up sitting onto the sacrum, your pelvis is tucked under, and what this does is it lengthens the muscles of the lower back, and then you hold that lengthened position for an extended period of time. And when we hold that lengthened position, that's where discomfort starts to kick in. And your body really doesn't want you to feel uncomfortable. So it develops these fascial adhesions around these lengthened muscles to help you maintain that position with a little bit more ease. Your body's registering, okay, you like this position, this is the position you sit in, I'm gonna make it easier for you. So that's where some of the mobilization comes in. If someone were to come up to you and say, hey, untuck your tailbone or stand up straight, it might not feel totally comfortable. You might feel some pulling in the chest muscles, you might feel some pulling in the abdominals, because just like the lengthened muscles get these fascial adhesions, we have the kind of like, the contracted muscles also developing these adhesions. So I work a lot with, both in class and with clients, with lacrosse balls to help release some of these adhesions, words, so they can find those postures a little bit better. Now I go back and forth between this alignment thing. When I'm talking about pelvic health, I definitely think that there is a place for certain bones to be, for certain alignment to be. But again, like I mentioned earlier, this is not something that is realistic for us to maintain through our entire life. If you are someone who has happened to have had kids, you went through pregnancy where you kind of started adjusting your body around your growing belly, your tailbone starts to tuck under, your spine starts to round, and then you spend another 1 year, year and a half, 2 years also in this kind of hunched over shoulder position, feeding your baby, whether it's bottle breast, doesn't matter, you're in that position. So pelvic health gets a big rep for being something that pregnant women and postnatal women go through. But that is not always the case, because if you start to look at the positions we hold ourselves in everyday life, they exist long before pregnancy. I have talked often about the fact that I remember the first moment that I started making my way towards pelvic floor concerns. It was the second grade. We were sitting in the gym in an assembly, and I was sitting up really, really tall, and I looked around and everyone was hunched over, and I went, oh, I'm too big. I'm too tall. I'm not sitting that. I'm going to hunch over too. And the minute I made that decision, my body started adapting to that position. And then flash forward several years down the road, babies cooking in the kitchen, trying to do crazy workout things to get my pre-baby body back, and I ended up peeing in my pants cooking in the kitchen. It was just happening, couldn't stop it. That is what led me down the road of pelvic health. When it comes to the hips, we'll go over it a little bit quickly. Same thing. If you have a desk job, if you have any kind of job where you're driving or sitting for long periods of time, you are really constricting through those hip flexors, the front of your hips, and then they maintain that tight position over a long period of time. Not to mention the fact that we don't often go to the gym and go, I'm going to strengthen out my hip flexors. That's what I'm going to do today. It just doesn't exist. So we spend time in this constricted position. Just because the muscles are contracted does not mean they are strong. In fact, tension is another form of weakness, just sort of on a different spectrum of things. So these are all things that just the beginning talking points that I'm going to be discussing this Sunday at the Winter Wellness Expo that is happening at Covent Garden Market from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. There's going to be a whole vendor market with 20 vendors in the upstairs mezzanine, and there will be a workshop every hour on the 15, starting at 11:15 in the morning. And all of those workshops are free. The event is free, and you get 2 hours free parking as long as you validate your parking within the market. So I would love to see you there. Talk a little bit more about the things that we can do to help you get to places where you start eliminating that lower back pain, where you start to eliminate the hip pain. So the workshop is called Hips, Lower Back, Pelvis. Oh my! Because I thought we were all doing fun names, and I think I'm the only one who picked something really ridiculous, but I just really wanted to get the words in there about hips, lower back, and pelvis without making it a super long or super confusing name that nobody would even understand what we're doing. So this is what we're doing. We're going to be doing a little bit of work, a little bit of education, so you get to go home with some tips and tricks, but you also get to start to cultivate that awareness as to what is happening in your body. So if you have any questions about the workshop coming up, please feel free to comment below. And if there's anything else that I can help you with in the meantime, or if you can't make it out to the market this weekend for the Winter Wellness Expo, I would love to talk to you soon. In the meantime, that's all I've got for today. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining me. Those of you who stuck around live from beginning to end, I really appreciate it. I know you've got busy lives, and I love to see that you're taking something out of these live videos. So thanks again for turning out this afternoon. I'm going to go have some coffee. I'm going to go have some lunch. And then we've got a 5:45 class coming up tonight. All right. Talk to you soon.